3:17 a.m. The ICU waiting room doesn't care what time it is. It's always the same. The same blue-white light bleeding from the monitors through the glass. The same hum of machines that never stop. The same smell, antiseptic so sharp it burns your nostrils, layered over burnt coffee from the vending machine that's been broken since March. I'm holding a cup of that coffee. Stone cold. Been sitting here so long the warmth just gave up and left. My phone screen lights up. Another email. Dear David, we regret to inform you, 12th one this month. I don't even finish reading anymore. Just swipe it away and look at what's underneath. My banking app, $847. That's it. That's everything. Next to it, the hospital billing portal. 3 red overdue notices. Numbers I can't even say out loud. I look up from the screen, through the glass wall. Emma's in there. My wife. Sleeping under the blue glow, ventilator hissing its mechanical rhythm, shh chunk, shh chunk, shh chunk. The sound has become my heartbeat. I've memorized the seconds between each breath. When the pause stretches too long, my chest locks up until the next one comes. 39 years old. Elementary school teacher. She taught second graders how to read. Now she can't speak. Can't move her right side. Communicates with her eyes and this squeeze of her left hand, weak, but still there. Still fighting. I set the cold coffee down. Rub my face with hands that used to build things. Calloused palms, scarred knuckles. I was a construction project manager before all this. Before 147 days ago, when Emma laughed in our kitchen at the burnt toast I made her, and then collapsed mid-laugh, and everything stopped. And here's the thing nobody tells you about sitting in an ICU waiting room at 3 a.m. when you haven't slept more than 3 hours in 5 months. You start talking to someone you don't even believe in. I whispered it. Didn't mean to. Just came out. If you're real, why aren't you doing anything? The ventilator answered. Shh-chunk. 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 That's all I got. 6 years ago. Different kitchen. Different life. Emma was getting dressed for church. Sunday morning. I was at the table with my coffee, hot back then, scrolling through project bids on my laptop. Come with me, she said. Not for the first time. I didn't look up. I don't need God. I take care of my family myself. Always have, always will. I said it like it was a flex. Like self-sufficiency was a virtue. Man provides. Man protects. Man handles his business. That was my whole theology. She walked over, put her hand on my shoulder. Gentle. The way she did everything. One day, she said, when you can't take care of everything anymore, I hope you'll remember he's still there. I kissed her hand without looking up. Not gonna happen, babe. I got this. That memory cuts now. Every single night. Like a blade I keep picking up voluntarily, just to feel it again. Because here I am. The man who had it all handled. Can't get a job. Sold the house. Living in a cramped apartment 3 blocks from the hospital so I can be here every day. My wife can't say my name. And I'm staring through glass at a machine breathing for her, counting seconds like they're the only currency I have left. Let me tell you about the 3 a.m. routine. Because if you've ever sat in a hospital waiting room in the middle of the night, you know, it's a different world. The lights are dimmed but never off. Everything glows that specific shade of blue, not peaceful blue, not sky blue, but the cold electronic blue of monitors in charging stations and vending machine displays. It makes everyone look half dead even when they're healthy. The corridor outside the ICU is long and empty. My footsteps echo when I walk to the bathroom. I've started counting them, 17 steps from my chair to the water fountain. 23 back if I take the long way past the chapel. The chapel. I walk past it every night. Never go in. But lately, last 3 weeks, if I'm honest, I've been slowing down. Glancing through the open door at the empty pews, the flickering candle, the plain wooden cross on the wall. And I feel this pull I can't explain. This ache in my chest that has nothing to do with the burnt coffee or the sleeplessness. I stood there tonight. 2:47 a.m. Hand on the doorframe. Didn't cross the threshold. Just stared at that cross and felt, what? Anger? Yeah. Confusion? Definitely. But something else too. Something that scared me more than the anger. A crack. That's what it felt like. A hairline fracture in the wall I'd built around myself for 41 years. The wall called I can handle it. The wall called I don't need anyone. The wall called faith is for people who can't hack it on their own. Turns out I can't hack it on my own. Turns out I never could. Here's a truth I'm learning the hard way, and I mean the 3 a.m., cold coffee, empty bank account, ventilator hissing in the darkness hard way. Faith isn't always a loud confession. Sometimes it's just refusing to let go of someone's hand in the dark. I don't know what I believe right now. I don't know how to pray. I don't know if the man I whispered accusations at through a glass wall is listening, or if he cares, or if any of this means anything. But I'm still here. Still holding Emma's hand every day, feeling that weak squeeze back. Still counting breaths. Still walking past the chapel slower and slower each night. And maybe that's something. Maybe that's the beginning of something I don't have words for yet. The ventilator kept its rhythm. Shoo-chunk. Shoo-chunk. I was about to get up, throw the cold coffee away, make lap 23 past the chapel again. But then the light changed in Emma's room. Just slightly. The blue glow shifted. And Emma's eyes opened. She turned her head, barely, just a fraction, and looked straight at me through the glass. Her left hand, the one that still works, the one that's been squeezing mine for 147 days, started to move. And what she did with that paralyzed hand, what she made me understand without a single word, shattered everything I believed about strength. I was feeding her. Spoon by spoon. The way I'd done every afternoon for the past 3 weeks since she'd been moved to this room with the window that faced a brick wall. My hands were shaking. I didn't notice at first. You stop noticing things when you've been running on 3 a.m. coffee and prayers you don't know how to pray. But then the spoon wobbled. A drop of orange-red soup splashed onto the white hospital blanket. Then another. And another, this one landing on the sleeve of Emma's gown. I froze. And something in me, something I'd been holding together with duct tape and stubbornness and 41 years of believing I could handle everything on my own, that something just snapped. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not strong enough. The spoon clattered into the cup. My shoulders started shaking. And then, for the first time in 148 days, for the first time since the call that started all of this, for the first time in years, if I'm being honest, I broke. Not the polite kind of breaking where a single tear rolls down your cheek and you wipe it away manfully. No. This was ugly. This was the kind of crying where your face crumples and your breath comes in gasps and you don't care who sees because you've run out of the energy it takes to pretend. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I believe. I don't know if you're there. I don't know if any of this means anything. Emma couldn't speak. The stroke had stolen her words 5 months ago, along with most of her right side. But her eyes, those deep brown eyes that had first looked at me across a crowded college library 23 years ago, her eyes were wide open. Watching me. And then her left hand moved. The one that still worked. The one she'd been using to squeeze mine every day for 148 days. It crawled across the blanket like a small, determined animal. Found my hand. and squeezed. Once. Twice. 3 times. Our old signal. From before. From the days when she could still speak and laugh and roll her eyes at my terrible jokes. 3 squeezes meant I love you. We'd used it in crowded rooms, across dinner tables, during boring meetings. 3 squeezes. I love you. But she wasn't done. Her eyes, those eyes that held more life than her body could express anymore, she deliberately looked up. At the ceiling. Held her gaze there for 3 full seconds. Then back at me. Then up again. Then back at me. She did this 3 times. And I understood. She's pointing to God. Here's the thing about Emma's faith. It was always there. For 23 years of marriage, it was always there, quiet, steady, unshowy. She never pushed it on me. Never lectured me when I rolled my eyes during her grace before meals. Never made me feel less than for sleeping in on Sundays while she went to church alone. She just lived it. Like breathing. Like her heart beating. Faith wasn't something she did. It was something she was. And now, even paralyzed. Even silenced. Even trapped in a body that wouldn't cooperate in a hospital room that faced a brick wall, her faith was reaching for me. Her grip on my hand was weak. Medically speaking, it was barely there. The kind of grip that makes physical therapists frown and note minimal improvement on their charts. But in that barely there grip, something happened inside me that I still can't fully explain. Those 3 faint squeezes traveled up my arm like a current, settling somewhere deep in my chest and pulling tight. My throat closed. My eyes burned. I felt my own hand tremble, not from weakness, but from the sheer weight of what she was giving me. Her fingers, so frail they could barely curl, held more life than any hand I'd ever clasped. More than the firm, confident grip of the CEO who hired me fresh out of school. More than the polished 2-handed shake from that politician at a networking dinner years ago. More even than my own father's proud hand the day I walked across that graduation stage. Because this trembling, nearly weightless touch wasn't about power. It was about presence. And in that holy moment, I finally understood. Strength was never about muscle. It was always about showing up when it costs you everything you have left. Hat you do with what you have left. And Emma, with almost nothing left, was still pointing me towards something beyond myself. Her eyes. I keep coming back to her eyes. They held more conviction in that moment than any sermon I'd ever ignored. More certainty than any billboard Bible verse I'd ever driven past. More faith than I'd accumulated in 41 years of believing I didn't need any. And that's when it hit me, the realization that rearranged something deep in my chest. Emma's faith didn't disappear with her ability to speak. It was always there. Waiting. Waiting for me to notice. Her mother arrived at 4 p.m. Margaret. 68 years old, widow of 15 years, owner of the most resilient faith I've ever encountered and also the most annoying habit of humming hymns while she does dishes. She found me in the hallway. Sitting on that same plastic chair I'd claimed as my territory for the past 5 months. Holding Emma's small leather Bible, the one she'd carried in her purse for years, the one with the worn edges and the coffee stain on the corner of Psalms, the one I'd never opened. Not once. In 23 years of marriage, I'd never cracked it open. Margaret didn't lecture. That's not her style. She's a widow who buried her husband at 53 and somehow still believes God is good. You don't survive that by lecturing people. She just sat down beside me. The plastic chair creaked under her weight. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang and rang. I was angry at God for 3 years after Emma's father died. She said it like she was telling me about the weather. Matter of fact. No drama. I stopped praying. Stopped going to church. stopped everything. I'd walk past the church on Sunday mornings and feel this rage. This betrayal. Like God had broken a promise he never actually made. I stared at the Bible in my hands. The leather was soft, worn smooth by years of Emma's fingers. I told him I was done. Told him he could keep his heaven if this was how he treated his faithful. And then I waited. For what? For lightning. For a sign. For something to prove he was angry back. Margaret smiled, that particular smile of someone who's been through the fire and come out the other side. Nothing happened. The sun kept rising. The birds kept singing. The coffee kept brewing. And one day, just a regular Tuesday, nothing special, I realized something. She turned to look at me. Her eyes were the same deep brown as Emma's. God didn't leave me. I was the one who walked away. The words landed in my chest like a stone dropping into still water. You don't need to have all the answers, David. The 147th night didn't announce itself. No trumpet. No warning. Just the same blue glow from the monitors painting Emma's face in cold light. The same rhythmic hiss of the ventilator pushing air into lungs that couldn't breathe on their own. I held her hand. Her fingers were cool. They were always cool now. But tonight was different. I could feel it in my chest, not a premonition, not hope exactly, but a pressure. A weight that had been building for 147 nights. And I broke. And I broke. Not with tears or shouting or fists raised at heaven. Just a quiet unraveling. The kind where everything you've been holding suddenly becomes too heavy, and you realize your arms were never designed to carry it alone. I looked at Emma's face. Her eyes were closed. They'd been closed for 147 nights. The doctors said she could probably hear me. Probably. Another word that should be banned. God. My voice cracked on that single syllable. I hadn't said it, not like this, not as a plea stripped of every pretense, since I was a boy. The word hung in the sterile air, small and trembling. That's when I saw it. A flicker beneath her lashes, so faint I thought I'd imagined it. Then her eyelids began to lift slowly, like dawn deciding whether to break. The fluorescent light caught the edge of her iris for the first time in months, and I watched the pupil struggle to focus, reaching toward the sound of my voice. Her lips parted, and a shallow breath escaped, not the rhythmic exhale of sleep, but a deliberate, searching inhale, as if she were tasting the air for the first time. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I just watched those beautiful, waking eyes find mine. In a dress, not as a reaching in over 4 decades. I don't know if you're there. I don't know what to say. I've never done this. I've never. But Emma believes in you. She's always believed in you. And I have nothing left to hold on to. If you're real. My throat tightened. Stay with her tonight. I'm not asking for a miracle. I'm not asking you to fix everything. Just stay. Don't leave her alone in this room while I'm sitting here useless. And then the part one didn't plan to say. The part that rose up from somewhere deeper than my brain, somewhere I didn't know existed until that moment. And please, teach me how to believe. That was it. No eloquence. No theological precision. Just 5 sentences from a man who'd spent his entire life running from exactly this moment. And then something happened. Not in the room. Not on the monitors. Not in Emma's body. In me. It started as a physical sensation, a release in my chest, like someone had loosened a vice I'd forgotten was there. My breathing, which I hadn't noticed was shallow and ragged, began to slow. My shoulders dropped. The tension I'd been carrying in my jaw, in my neck, in the space between my shoulder blades, it didn't disappear, but it shifted. Redistributed. Like a weight being transferred from my hands to something larger. A warmth spread through my palms. The same palms that were holding Emma's cool fingers. I can't explain it medically. I've tried. I've replayed that moment 1,000 times, searching for a physiological explanation: adrenaline crash, exhaustion, the placebo effect of finally voicing something I'd suppressed for decades. None of those explanations fit. Because this wasn't just a feeling. It was a presence. Not visible. Not audible. But undeniable in a way that bypassed my intellect entirely and landed somewhere deeper, somewhere I'd spent 41 years pretending didn't exist. That was the moment I stopped being God in my own story. You don't realize you've been playing that role until you quit. Until you hand in your resignation and discover that the position was never yours to begin with. I'd been trying to control outcomes, manage circumstances, predict disasters, prevent suffering, all the while believing I was the only one capable of holding my world together. And in one broken, stuttered, theologically incorrect prayer, I let someone else take over. Psalm 23. Emma's favorite. The one she'd underlined in that small leather Bible with the coffee stain on the corner. The one I'd never opened until Margaret handed it to me in the hallway. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I used to think that was poetry. Beautiful language for funerals and stained glass windows. But sitting there at 3 a.m. on the 147th night, those words became autobiography. He makes me lie down in green pastures. For 147 nights, I'd been forced to stop running. Forced to sit still in a plastic chair while the woman I loved fought for her life. I'd resented every second of it. But now I understood the lying down wasn't punishment. It was provision. God had to stop me before He could save me. He restores my soul. The restoration didn't come through healing Emma. Not yet. Maybe not ever in the way I wanted. It came through healing me. Through dismantling the illusion that I was fine on my own. Through breaking open the hardened shell of self-sufficiency I'd mistaken for strength. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The very things I'd resented, the hospital, the waiting, the silence, the unanswered questions, became the tools God used to draw me close. The rod wasn't punishment. It was guidance. The staff wasn't restriction. It was rescue. I stayed until the first gray light of dawn crept through the window. And when the nurse came in at 6:15 a.m. to check vitals, I was still holding Emma's hand. Still breathing slow. Still surrounded by a peace that made no logical sense and required no explanation. The next morning, the 148th morning, I arrived early. Before Margaret. Before the shift change. Before the hospital hallways filled with the sounds of breakfast carts and morning rounds. I brought Emma's Bible. The leather was soft. Worn smooth by years of her fingers tracing promises I'd never bothered to read. I sat beside her bed. The chair creaked, that familiar sound, now almost comforting. The monitors beeped their steady rhythm. The ventilator pushed air into lungs that still couldn't breathe alone. I opened to Psalm 23. And I read aloud. My voice trembled at first. I stumbled over words that should have been familiar but weren't, not to my tongue, not to my ears, not to the part of me that had never spoken scripture out loud in my entire adult life. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I kept going. Past the green pastures. Past the still waters. Past the valley of the shadow of death, and that phrase hit different when you'd been living in that valley for 148 days. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And then Emma opened her eyes. Not dramatically. Not like the movies where the patient sits up and the monitors go wild and the doctors rush in. Just a slow flutter of eyelids that hadn't opened in 5 months. Her gaze found mine. Recognition flickered there, not the confusion of someone waking from a coma, but the clarity of someone who'd been waiting. She cried. Tears rolled down her paralyzed cheek. She couldn't wipe them away. Couldn't speak.